Hey folks, I got a couple of special items in here. Well, to me they're special because I haven't done these before, and they're going to be relatively simple. A magazine pouch, a Luger magazine pouch, I believe is what it is. It's got some condition issues on the top, so I'm going to be very careful with that. It has no belt loops. It had two separate belt loops on here. Is what it appears that it was. These had been both ways. I've seen them both ways with one big belt loop or two separate ones. I'm trying to discern that. You know, this one looks like it had one big one. So the way I'm going to do it is I have to take this magazine pouch all the way apart. I'm going to try to condition this so that it's kind of a little, you know, kind of get the bottom to form a little bit better. We'll restitch this piece. It goes through both sides. It's going to be kind of difficult, but we'll figure that out as we go. I'm going to go over it with some Connolly's to try to moisturize this so it stays together a little better. Just because you can see it's kind of cracking a bit, coming apart. We want to stop that, put a check on it. And that's what we're going to do. So, the stitching down the center is going to be the hardest part. And, well, it's not going to be that bad, I don't think. I think it's going to be pretty simple to do. The belt loop, we'll have to stitch down the center, then stitch in the belt loop, then stitch the perimeter. We have a couple of stitches on the corners that we have to do. We have to stitch this in, which will have to be done before we stitch the perimeter. So it's going to take a little bit of planning as we go. And that's just how something like this would be done. You just have to think a little bit, use your noodle, and get the job done. So we'll get on with these. I'll quick show you how I do a belt keeper. I got one that's drying now. I get the leather wet because you got to kind of make a circle out of it. So we'll get you on the other camera, show you what we're doing, and get on with it. I sewed it on. All my stuff is correct. My holes are in the right. I had one extra hole here, so I marked it so I don't try to make that. But everything came out all right. It's the right length. My rounded off corners are correct. The stitch holes are not even, and I hate that. It's going to drive me crazy. So I can fudge my stitch holes a little bit and try to make them as even as I can so they look nice, at least on the outside. The ones here in the middle won't be there. You may be asking why I'm bothering making a template for this when I did the PP holster. I did not make a pattern for that one. The reason I'm doing it on this one is if you've been watching the channel for a while, I've talked about an order of operations, an order of assembly. So my order of assembly on this one, I have to do the center stitch line on the magazine first, or on this magazine pouch first, because it's down inside here. So I have to do that first. Then I can still move the sides and do the stitch lines for this side and this side, because there are two sides. There's no stitching down in the center of the belt loop, so I can do that. At the same time, once I do this, then I have to put the keeper on, which is what makes these so difficult. Well, they're not even difficult really. They're more of a pain in the butt, because you just have to have your order of operations in mind before you do this. There's not enough room in here, even with short needles, to stitch pieces on here without taking at least the side stitching out. The side stitching and the corner stitching. Now there's no corner stitching in this corner, which seemed odd to me when I took it apart, that there wasn't any, but there wasn't. There was stitching on this corner, and you can tell because there's stitch holes here, and I took the stitching out. But there was no stitching in the center. There's no stitch holes there. That was left open. If you wanted to stitch that, it would have to be done before it goes any farther. It would have to be done before assembly. Now I was hoping to try to reform the bottom of these a little bit, but I'm not gonna, because it's just, the leather is just it's a little fragile down on the bottom here. I don't wanna try to damage anything. These magazine pouches are kind of oddities, I guess. They're not super common, from what I understand. I'm not as much of a collector as I'd like to be. I can't afford to collect this kind of stuff. So I get to live vicariously through other collectors when I repair their items. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. You have to follow an order of operations when you reassemble. So that's what I'm going to do. I got my grooves cut in there. It will lighten up a little bit. It's still wet. Or not cut in. I guess I used my multiple purpose tool. I love this thing. I love tools that have more than one purpose in the shop. This is one of them. It's fantastic. So I have it in there. I got my little pins in there holding it in place. I want it to kind of dry in this configuration. I'm going to let it sit overnight, and tomorrow I'm hauling rock tomorrow. So I don't know how long a day I'm going to have. When you're hauling rock, you're on somebody else's schedule. I do have my regular gig. Another driver's taking that tomorrow. Kind of sucks, but it is what it is. We gotta, I gotta be a team player. But this is gonna sit overnight. I will put some Connollys on here before it gets put on. But all my holes line up. Everything lines up perfect, exactly how I need it. I really hate the fact that of the uneven spacing on the stitch holes. It's going to drive me absolutely bat crap crazy, but there isn't much I can do about it. Order of operations, again, as I stated before, the first piece that has to go on is this one. The stitch line down the middle is first. Then I either have to put this on or put the belt loop on, just because of the way it was put together. The belt loop was held on with 4 separate stitch lines, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the tab was held on with 2 separate stitch lines. So I have to kind of address it that way. But regardless, the front center has to be done first. And I believe the best way to do that is to start at the bottom. There is one extra hole right here. It's really hard to see, and that's where I'm going to do my binding stitch at the bottom, and I'll tie off at the top. So here we go. I got asked one time why I'm showing this on videos. This is not for the faint of heart. This kind of work is not easy. It doesn't pay super well, although some of my customers might disagree. Because it's not cheap to get this kind of work done. And I don't want say that's as it should be, because I'd like to do it for less, but I have to have some kind of a rate that I can charge and be fair. And I definitely do try to be fair. I have just an hourly shop rate that I charge for any repairs. Just happens that this is most of the repair work that I do. Now these are really small holes. I tried to size down my needle to a 004, I think it is. These are my normal needles that I use, 002 John James. I just couldn't get the 5 cord to go through it very well. Seems kind of weird, there's a couple that are off here. There we go. The middle is stitched. I think my next best bet is to do the belt loop next. I'll stitch the top and then I'll stitch the bottom. I'll use my short needles so that I don't have to bend this out so far to do that. We'll get after that. I might have a piece here. Well, I'm going to have to stitch one on. So we're going to do that. So I've got my center stitched up. My belt loop is stitched on. I don't like the fact that stitch holes look kind of uneven. I tried to make them look as even as I could. On my back I've got a whole big muscle spasm thing going in my back the last week or so. Forgive me if I wince once in a while. But so it looks as good as I can make it. It is a single belt loop and it looks like it should have two. But obviously from the impressions on the back it was a single belt loop. So I've got the center stitched. I don't know if I said anything. There is one stitch that goes around. I don't know if you'll be able, from the inside here you can see the holes. There's a hole here and here. So there was just a stitch that wrapped around there a couple of times. Trying to figure out the way I was doing it, I was going to wind up wrapping through there like 4 or 5 times, and that was too much. And I know it was only like 3 wraps around there. So there's one. There's 2. There's 3. So it's hard to tell, but all 3 of them are laying side by side as opposed to over the top of each other, which is how we want that. So now build our square knot. I haven't showed in detail how a square knot looks or anything. I should do that. But I should do that in a separate video. We'll just take this little guy, kind of push that knot down in between there nicely. And there we go. Nice and hidden down there. The top is just how it should be. Now we're ready to stitch this part on. I stitched down one side because one side is pretty easy. I'm going to go ahead and get the other side. I'm going to start at the top, work down. We have a binding stitch. So we'll start here on holding the strap to the body here. Just like any other binding stitch, I think I've showed all this. I'm probably going to, if I, you know, I show these holster videos and stuff because that's what I got going on in the shop. I really want to get to my beginner videos sooner than later, but I just, life's just not letting me get there. But I promise they're coming. Winter's coming, so I might be able to get to them. But it seems like I finished one order. Well, it's not, doesn't seem like it. It is. Finish one order, another one comes in. Right now I've got two on the way. Today is Wednesday. One I think is going to be here tomorrow. Tomorrow or Friday is what the postmaster says. And then another one Monday. I have so much of this video sitting to be edited. I think I'm just going to make, what do they call it, a mashup? Just going to put some clips together with little bits from each holster or each video, each holster. I've got a set from, one customer sent me several holsters. Sent 4, I actually repaired 3. One had some condition issues that I just wasn't comfortable doing the work on because I didn't want to mess it up even worse. And I don't remember if I talked about that or not. There are some that have, condition is everything with these. And if I don't feel that the holster is in decent enough condition for me to perform the work and not make the condition worse, I won't do it. If there's a chance of making it worse than what it currently is, I won't do the work. And that's just me. Some people don't care, they'll just do the work. If I'm going to make it worse, then it's not worth doing the work. I mean, for the customer, it's not worth doing the work. For me, it don't matter. As long as they want to pay the bill, who cares, right? I take pride in my work. But I explained that to the customer and he agreed that, you know, we'll probably just leave it then. And I think that was the best decision on that holster. But I do have some interesting holsters coming. You know, something like this magazine pouch. This is a 1915. When we get stuff that old, it's just kind of cool to see it, touch it, feel it, look at it. I think it's just neat. And I know, that's an old word. I'm an old guy. So who cares? Okay, maybe I'm not that old. My doctor is, aside from my broken body parts that just don't work right anymore, my doctor says I'm pretty healthy. Healthiest fat guy she's met. Which, I never know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Still a fat guy. I'm pretty darn healthy. My wife feeds me well, you know. If you eat right. And you live right, I think you can go a long ways. I'm going to go ahead and get these needles out of my way. Oh, don't lose that. The belly caught it. So, we're going to go left over the top. Pull it down good and tight. And then we'll go left underneath. And pull it down good and tight. You notice I didn't move my blade. Alright. Looks pretty good. Move this way. I need to hammer down my stitch line a little bit. To do that, I'm not going to show all of this perimeter stitching. There's a whole provisions. There's provisions? There are provisions, holes at the top for a binding stitch. I'll be using that. I got to go down and I got to come up and back down and then along the end. On the inside of the pockets here, they do not have provisions to go up, just straight across. On the other corner I go up again and back down and then back up and tie off. And it was tied off on this corner and it was tied off on the inside. I can see where the knot was tied off. Some of this stuff is hard to show because it's not a huge impression that was left, but it was here that it was tied off. So I'll show you a little bit here and there, but it really doesn't pay to show much because I'm just going to be stitching it up. What the hairy heck is going on there? Oh, that's just daffy as heck. Daffy as heck. So you want to keep your thread straight as you're doing all this. Because I suppose I don't have to do this all in one long piece. I could do this in multiple pieces, but it wasn't originally, so it's not going to be done that way on my watch. I always like to go through the front side first Now I do want to take the time to kind of line everything back up as I'm going along here, because otherwise it's going to look a little funny. We don't need that. So just be mindful of that as you're going. And all should be well. The only other thing you got to be mindful of is if I lay this thread down and I take this one over the top, I want to do that for every stitch. Otherwise you will see it in the finished product. And I will go over all of that in the beginner series as well. And I'll actually show you the effect of that. I don't want to pull this tight. I want to just pull it snug. If I pull it too tight, it's liable to break through some of this leather that is still a little, what do we want to say, crusty? Still a little dry. Sometimes no matter how much you moisturize a piece of leather, it's just going to take time to really soak it in. And as I'm going with every stitch, I'm trying to keep everything lined up. We're going through that fall weather cycle right now, where it gets cold for a few days. It'll get nice. It was like 65 today. Absolute beautiful fall day. Tomorrow is supposed to be another one of them. Saturday I think is supposed to be decent, but it's supposed to cool off all day. It's supposed to hit a high of like 60 on Saturday and then cool off all day. Down into the 20s Saturday night. Last week it was in the 30s. Which means you get a sniffles. Oh, ouch. At some point I'm going to be having a holster come in for something other than a German pistol. Hopefully by then I got my shop cleaned up. For a Japanese Nambu. Nambu. I know that didn't sound right because I got the nose plug. And they're kind of an interesting holster. I've only seen them, I haven't actually worked on one. But they're kind of a rubberized canvas. I'm not sure if I'll be able to repair it or not. I told the gentleman I'd be able to take a look at it at the very least, and we'll give it our best go. If I don't think I can fix it, I won't. But it is just some stitching that it needs, so I think I can take care of that. Well, I got it all stitched up. It looks pretty good. Used all the holes. That's always a plus. You don't like skipping any. that's all there is to these mag pouches. A little piece of wax stuck on the back there. It was a complete restitch. I'm going to try to touch up a couple of these really light areas. A little bit of dye on there, just to touch it up just a little bit. Give it a coat of Connolly's. Send her out the door as soon as I finish this other piece that the gentleman sent. And there's video on that too. I might show it, I might not. It's a different project, so or it's not a Luger holster. Let's put it that way. But I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna have some dinner. I gotta get to bed. Gotta get up at 4 in the morning. Again, more work to do. Gotta work. As much as it's getting hard to do, I still gotta do it. So there we go. Look at the rest of this done. I'm gonna roll this all into one video. I lost my camera. Quit working on me for the corner parts. Sorry I didn't get that on there. Once I got them done, I couldn't go back and do them again. So, well, I could have, but I wasn't gonna. They're a lot of work. They're kind of tough. They're touchy. Not feely, just touchy. Alright, we'll be back.